consent to the Telford and Wrekin Council Audit Committee meeting. Due to the current COVID-19 regulations, today's meeting is held using audio conferencing and available for the public to listen to via an audio feed on the agenda page on our website or via the Council's YouTube channel. This ensures that all those involved or interested in meeting can hear how the decisions are made. Members and other participants should only speak when invited to do so. So if possible, will everyone ensure that their microphones are now on mute while they are not addressing the committee? Anyone disrupting the proceedings will have their microphone muted or will be removed from the meeting. Members are asked to use a raise hand facility if they wish to speak. So on with the agenda. Apologies for absence. I've got one from Bliss Mercer. Are there any others?
Hi, Chair. No, I've not received any apologies from any other members.
Okay, thank you for that. Declarations of interest from any members, please. No. Okay, minutes of previous meeting. Has everyone got those or had sight of those? If we're happy with them, I could do
Move them, Chair.
Yeah, move it. Happy.
Moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please, if we're in approval for that? Okay, thank you. Okay, on with agenda point 4, Treasury update. Pauline, are you starting with this one?
I am, thank you, Chair. So this report updates members on the Treasury management activities during the current year and also details the Treasury strategy recommended to be adopted for 21-22. For members who were able to attend prior to the meeting, Arlene Close have just provided an update seminar which has covered the strategy and key considerations for members' information. Audit Committee's role is to review the strategy and recommend it forward to Cabinet and full Council as part of the suite of service and financial planning reports. One element of the strategy has been to take advantage of the low interest rates for borrowing, and we have gained benefits from that, totalling more than £20 million in the past 5 years. Just moving on to PWLB, one of our main sources of longer term lending. Following a consultation, the PWLB reduced their rates and removed 100 basis points in November. That was obviously beneficial to us, but members will be comforted to know that our long-term rates that we've got built in our budget strategy are actually greater than all the current PWLB rates for any duration at the moment. So it is a very robust Treasury strategy we're putting forward tonight. And we do continue to receive regular advice from Arlene Close, who are our independent advisors. The report also sets prudential indicators associated with Treasury management, which help govern activities, and also the Council's minimum revenue provision statement, which is required by regulation and is in line with previous years. If there are changes to the Treasury strategy prior to it going to Cabinet and then full Council, we would obviously circulate that to Audit Committee members for information. I'm going to pass over to Ed, who'll take you through the remainder of the report.
Thank you, Pauline. So I'm going to start with part B of the report, which is on page 11 of the main pack, or page 5 of the actual report itself. So effectively it takes you through a bit more the background of the report. So section 4, as I say, covers the 2021 Treasury Management Update. 4.1 showing the portfolio position as at the 31st of December 2020 and compared with how we outturned at the end of the last financial year. So the net indebtedness on the table is comparable between the two positions. 4.2 then provides commentary regarding the interest rates and the government's quantitative easing programme and gives a base for the interest rate forecast looking forward. 4.3 then looks at the borrowing, reviews the borrowing. So all borrowing in the year has been temporary borrowing through the local to local market, that's local authority market. And we've undertaken no PWLB so far this year. 4.4 then includes the commentary regarding our investments, and as Arlene Close was just saying, our investments tend to be generated through cash flow activity. Section 5 of the report then looks at the Treasury management strategy going forward for the year ahead. So 5.1 will focus on the background and includes the regulatory requirements, has a look at the external context and clearly how that then impacts on the local context that we operate within. 5.1.4 is our borrowing strategy, so little change to the strategy based on the current year, in that we will continue to borrow short term to take advantage of the lower interest rates, but clearly leaving the opportunity to review and lock into longer term borrowing when conditions are right to do so. 5.2 sets out the strategy relating to the Treasury management investments, and again will be a continuation of the 1920 strategy. So again, maintaining security and retaining access to liquid funds. As I say, most of our investments all our investments are for cash flow purposes, so we have to make sure they are liquid. And the report reviews all potential investments that we are able to access, as well as the counterparty options which are in place for local authorities. 5.3 picks up the ethical considerations under the strategy requirements, and Appendix G to the report contains further details of these. 5.4 highlights the use of the financial derivatives and our position under the Market Financial Instruments Directive and the MiFID. And going forward, we will remain as a professional client, as we have done over the past couple of years since that was introduced. 5.5 sets out the financial implications for the forthcoming year, so the budget position for the forthcoming year based on the strategy being adopted. 5.6 confirms that we're complying with the regulatory provisions for setting a balanced budget. Section 6 looks at the MRP statement, and again I confirm there's no change in the MRP practices on prior years. Section 7 highlights the monitoring and the reporting requirements, the training requirements as set out in the codes, and also discloses the continued use of our Treasury advisor Arlene Close, who we'll be using for a further 12 months. And then the appendices start on page 27 of the pack, or page 21 of the report. But just want to quickly bring you to your attention, clearly Appendix A is the Treasury Management Policy Statement, and the prudential indicators are set out at Appendix C, and these cover the years 2021 to 24-25. That's me done, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Pauline. Thank you, Ed. Any questions or comments from the committee on this? No. Oh, Adrian. Hi, Adrian.
Hi, sorry I was late, members. I just got stuck in another meeting, then I couldn't find the link. So, yeah, just a quick one. On the Arlene Close forecast, what's their view on inflation going forward? Because a worry I have is that, you know, with all the sort of change and activity going on, that inflation might creep up higher than expected, which then would have a knock-on effect with interest rates. It's sort of, the forecast of interest rates is unchanged, but there isn't a much more of a longer-term comment. Do we know anything on that?
Right. Thanks, Adrian. I know that was covered in the presentation that we had previously. I'm just wondering if there was, I know Caldiff wasn't in that presentation either. Are we able to forward the reports on to Adrian to Caldiff, please?
Yes,
we'll get the slides.
Yes,
so please.
yes, we
Okay,
will
thank
do
you.
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think,
the comments or questions?
Chair, sorry,
Hi, Bill.
sorry, Chair. I think for Adrian's purposes, we will get the slides, but I think Arlene Close commented on that. The outlook for inflation for the next 3 or 4 years is still quite low.
Yes, I was just going to say, Councillor, 4.2 with the report, Arlene Close are predicting the interest rate to remain at 0.1% up until the first quarter of 2024.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions from anyone? Okay, we have got 3 recommendations on this, so I would need a proposer and a seconder and a vote. You want to move forward with the recommendations? Anyone
I'll move
propose?
it, Chair.
Moved by Charles. Anyone to second?
Alden's got his hand up.
Called it. Thank you. Okay, can we have a show of hands, please, on the screen by members? Who are in favour? Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, moving on. Agenda point 5, we've got the annual audit letter. We have Richard Percival from Grant Thornton with us tonight. Can I invite you, Richard, to the meeting?
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Yes, good. I apologise about my camera. It is a bit temperamental. I'll just try and get it working again. There we are. So I'm talking about the supplement, the annual audit letter, which is in the supplementary pack and starts on page 3 of the supplementary pack. The annual audit letter summarises the outcome of our 1920 audit. Before I talk about the letter itself, I just felt it was important that I explain to members of the committee that this will be my last audit committee. I've decided to retire. So my successor is Grant Patterson. Grant's a very experienced engagement lead and is looking forward to working with you. So I just thought I'd let you know before I talked about the letter. So as I say, the letter summarises the 1920 audit, and if I move forward to page 5 of the pack, page 3 of the letter, I'm not going to talk through the letter in detail. It largely repeats the audit findings report that we presented to the last meeting, but there's a few things I want to update you with. And really on this page, I just wanted to reiterate the fact that it's been a very difficult year, and we do appreciate the support that we've had from the finance team in getting through the audit. It's really important we work together. Our role is to challenge, our role is to ask questions, and the audit team have worked with us in responding to those challenges, and we appreciate that very much. On the executive summary page, page 6, just a few things to update you on, really. The audit findings report explained our proposals for opinion. This explains what actually happened. So I issued an unqualified opinion on the 11th of November. As explained at the time, it included an emphasis of matter paragraph, which draws the reader of the account's attention to an issue, and that was about the uncertainty in valuations due to COVID for land and buildings and for investments. And as I said at the time, it's not a qualification of the audit opinion, it's not a modification, it's just a process we go through to draw attention. Following completion of the audit, we completed the whole of government accounts audit, which was good news because that enabled me to issue a certification of completion. As your external auditor, I have certain statutory powers, for example, consideration of statutory recommendations, issuing a report in the public interest, just to record the fact that there were no issues during the course of the audit that may require me to use those powers. On value for money, we're satisfied that the council's got proper arrangements for securing economy, efficiency and effectiveness in its use of resources. And again, I just draw members' attention to the fact that this is the last year we will issue a value for money conclusion. The value for money remit has changed from 2021, and we will issue an auditor's annual report, and that will include a commentary on 3 elements of value for money. Arrangements to improve value for money, governance and financial sustainability. Moving into the detail of the letter, as I said, I don't wish to dwell on the detail of the letter as it largely repeats what I talked about with the audit findings report. Just a few things that I think are worth reiterating on the value for money side. So I'm on page 13. So as we noted, at the end of 1920, the overall position was within budget, and the planned savings were achieved, and that put the council in a good position to face the challenges that COVID has brought to us, and the continuing challenges. And we're satisfied that the reserves position of the council at that time was sound. Moving on to page 14, in common with every other local authority, there's uncertainty about future funding. There are financial pressures in the system. There's still, there's an increasing amount of uncertainty at the moment. At the point at which we completed the audit, we were satisfied that the council had managed its way through the COVID pandemic well, and it's strange to think that we issued that report in November, and we were thinking, well, we're over the worst now, but clearly we weren't, and those pressures remain, and obviously it's a key area of focus for the council going forward. The only other thing I wanted to draw members' attention to was page 16 of the pack, page 14 of the report, which summarises the audit fee for the year. So members may remember that when we issued the audit plan, there was an agreed fee variation of £11,000, and this related to the additional requirements that have been placed on us since the contract with Public Sector Audit Assurance was signed in terms of audit quality. We also found with all our audits this year that despite our best efforts, audits took longer to complete, and clearly there were pressures on the deadline. And I have to say, relatively speaking, we did well with Telford and Wrekin's audit because we managed to deliver the opinion by the end of November, which certainly was not the case for all audits. However, because we spent more time and had to do more work, particularly around the valuation issues and the impact of COVID on valuations, we have proposed a fee variation of just over £15,000, which we've discussed with the Director of Finance and Human Resources and agreed in principle, but that's subject to approval by public sector audit appointments. That was all I was going to say about the letter, Chair, but I'm very happy if you all members have questions they want to ask me.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Any comments or questions from the committee? This item's only for noting. Adrian, you were first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just on the emphasis of matter. So yeah. I understand that there was uncertainty in this audit. What's going to be the approach for next year? Because obviously, COVID will have sort of hopefully be behind us. Is the council going to have formal valuations of the properties to be compared to, or is there likely to be an emphasis of matter again for next year because of the comparative?
I suppose the answer is a bit of an all depends answer, I'm afraid, Councillor. I mean, the biggest single factor will be the valuer's judgment when the valuer comes in and values the land and buildings and investment properties about the volatility in the wider market. At the time that the valuer issued their valuation last year, there was a lot, or at the 31st of March, there was a lot of uncertainty there, and actually there was an expectation really that property prices will collapse, which they didn't do. So if that stability, if there is stability in the market and the valuer is satisfied with their stability, and we're satisfied through our own challenges that that's an appropriate conclusion, we may not issue an emphasis of matter on that issue. So as I say, it's quite difficult to predict, I guess, is the real answer to that. But they were exceptional circumstances last year, but it is difficult to know whether there will be exceptional circumstances this year. But it is, I would emphasise, for the type of emphasis of matter that we've issued, I relate to property valuations, it is the position at the year end, not what has gone on in the year, that will determine the judgment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Adrian. Coldip?
Yeah. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
We're going to miss you on the fire as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry to see you go.
Thank you.
Those who don't know, I'm the chair of the audit on the Shropshire and Fire Authority, and I work with Richard. Richard, my
Yes.
question is, when you have the value for money category, there was something simple there. Exactly, the layman like myself, who's not accountant like Bill Tomlinson or Adrian, he knew exactly what he meant.
Yeah.
But if you're sort of getting rid of the value for money category and going into these three elements, doesn't that sort of confuses the lay person like me? And value for money was a direct a statement, and I always used to look at that first.
Yeah. The intention is that this will actually be an improvement on what went before. Clearly, is why it's being implemented. The value for money judgment has changed quite a lot over the years, and what it's really become is quite formulaic in terms of a look at basically organisations, say financial standing, maybe if they've got issues with social care or something like that, and say given a binary judgment about is it a pass or is it a fail. The development is to look more widely across the organisation, so look at governance as well as financial sustainability, look at arrangements to secure improvement in the use of resources, and where there are weaknesses, and these will be called significant weaknesses, to publicly report those weaknesses. So rather than say your arrangements are sound for delivering value for money, what it might say is you have a particular issue in this area that you need to respond to, and those recommendations will be more akin to auditor statutory recommendations. They will require a sort of public response, if you like. So the idea is to put it more in the public domain. But I accept, Councillor, you're quite right that it won't be as simple and straightforward as the previous judgment.
All right. Thanks for clarifying that, Richard.
Okay. Thank you, Calder. Richard, on behalf of the Audit Committee, I wish you a long and happy retirement.
Thank you.
And thank you for all your support to the committee. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Okay, next agenda point 6, internal audit update report and internal audit charter. We've got Tracy and Rob. I don't know who's going first though.
I'll go first with the charter, the update. Thank you, Chair. So it's members of the Audit Committee to note the information contained in the report in respect of the internal audit planned work undertaken between the 12th of September 20 and the 4th of January 21, and the unplanned work to date. And also members of the Audit Committee to approve the revised internal audit charter. So I'll do the internal audit update, and I'll pass to Rob to update you on the charter. I didn't intend to go through all of the report. I was just going to talk through the reports that we'd issued during the period. So there have been eight reports issued. 3 have been a green grading, 2 yellow, 1 amber and 2 red. So if I concentrate on obviously the red and the amber ones, the 2 red were fleet and setting up home grant. We've already followed these up and improvements have been put in place. So the fleet have improved and are now reasonable grading, which is yellow. And the setting up home grant are an amber grading. So both of them will have further follow-ups, and we'll be updating you at the next meeting. The amber report was sales ledger, and again they've worked hard to put improvements in place and have now a yellow grading. Again, a further follow-up will be undertaken and reported to the next audit committee. And then all I was going to say really on the previously reported reports that we reported last committee meeting, improvements continue to be made, and we're quite happy with those improvements and have no concerns. So just if there's any questions before I pass to Rob.
Okay, any questions for Tracy? No? Okay. Oh, Bill, yeah. You got in there quick.
Yeah, apologies for that, Tracy.
It's okay.
Could you explain to me what a setting up for a home grant actually is, please?
It's just helping the children in care with setting up home after they leave care.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill. Adrian?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on the fleet management, can you describe what the issue was that was so poor that we got poor, the poor grade? What was the cause of that?
I think it was just record keeping, really. The evidence wasn't there for us to establish the proper controls were in place, and there'd been a bit of a change of management as well. So we decided they called us in actually, and they wanted us to a deep dive really and do a full audit so that they knew a starting point for them to as a new manager.
So can you give me an example of what paperwork wasn't so where they were drawing fuel with no evidence of where it was going, something like that? Or?
No, it was more of bookings and the taking of cash and not recording it properly. For example, I couldn't trace it back from taking the cash through to the bankings. But when I double checked it all, it was all. I didn't have any problems that was misappropriation. It was just poor record.
Yeah, so nothing was being pinched. It just there's just no evidence of.
It was just poor record keeping more than misappropriation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. We'll move on to Rob then, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tracy. The requirement for internal audit to have an internal audit charter derives from the public sector internal audit standards and is seen as general part of good governance. The terms of reference to this committee state that they must approve the internal audit charter annually. The previous charter that was last agreed by the committee occurred in January 2020. The charter itself, for the newer members on the committee, really just describes the intent of internal audit. So what's its purpose, its responsibilities, what its authority looks like within the council, how it's resourced, its relationship with the audit committee, and also how we comply with our own professional standards and the code of ethics that are detailed in the public sector internal audit standards. It's a fairly static document. There are two particular additions that I just wanted to draw to the attention of the audit committee. So we have confirmed in the charter now that internal audit does provide commercial services to a small number of parish and town councils. Again, that inclusion was to comply with the requirements of the internal audit standards. And secondly, there's a duty for myself as Chief Internal Auditor to report formally to the audit committee where I take on any non-audit services in a managerial way. So I think I'd mentioned at the last audit committee, I'd been given the pleasant surprise of risk management function. So that now sits under myself as team leader and Anthea Lowe as associate director. So those are the main two changes from the charter from the previous years. The other changes are just minor cosmetic changes to job titles. So I'd like the committee to approve the charter, or I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Rob. No, we've got Adrian and Bill's hand up from the previous item. I don't know if they want to make comment on this, or has anyone else got any other comments that they want to make? No? Okay, thank you. So there are two recommendations with this item. So can I have someone to propose and someone to second, please?
I propose it.
Thank you, called it. Anyone like to second?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, can we have a show of hands with the raise hand function, please? Or either or. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda point 7, AGS action plan. Rob, it's you again.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, you'll be fed up with my voice by the end of this committee meeting. The annual governance statement comes from a requirement from the Accounts and Audit Regulations 2015, and that requirement is for the council to produce an annual governance statement to accompany the council's annual accounts. The last annual governance statement and the corresponding action plan connected to it was previously presented to the audit committee at the July 2020 meeting. So what we're presenting to you today is an update on the AGS action plan itself. I didn't intend to go through it word for word. The one thing that I would like to point out, though, as you may be able to derive from looking at the end column of the AGS action plan table, is that the council has implemented a number of measures to provide assurance to the committee that findings in the governance statement that did require development are actually being developed. I'm sorry, and therefore improvement has been recognised. So hopefully that will provide some assurance to the committee. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Any comments or questions from the committee on this? It is only for noting. No. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Rob. Point 8, strategic risk register. Rob?
Not even a chance to have a drink of water. Thank you, Chair. Yes, the strategic risk register, as I've just stated, the risk management function now sits within my team, and therefore, as part of that function, we keep a maintained strategic risk register. So this forms part of good governance, really. The strategic risk register covers the key risks that could stop the council achieving its strategic objectives. The register encompasses well-publicised matters such as local flooding that Telford area has unfortunately received, and also, as you can imagine, the COVID pandemic and Brexit. The register will be presented to Cabinet on the 18th of February. It will be attached to the Section 151 Officers Service and Financial Planning papers. We are currently looking at reviewing the layout of the register as it sits, because we think it might offer more of an insight both to the authority and to members in terms of key risks. So when we do provide it in future committee meetings, it might look slightly different. But at the minute, this is how it stands, and these are what we believe are the key strategic risks. So we're really asking for any comments and asking for the committee to note and recommend that the register is approved at the next cabinet meeting on the 18th of February.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Can I open up for comments or questions, Bill?
Yeah, I think if Ian Fletcher was here, he might ask the same question as me, and I may have overlooked it, Rob. Have we got cyber attacks and just in particular IT resilience there on the risk register?
There is, Bill. Let me find out exactly where it is. So we've got, risk 5, inability to manage the health and safety risks in delivering the council's functions, and that includes building security and cyber.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from anyone? No? Okay. As Rob said there, that this report is for noting, but for recommendation for approval at cabinet. So I could do with someone to propose and someone to second this, please.
I'll propose it, Nathan.
Thank you, called it. Okay, and we got.
I'll second it, Nathan.
Thank you, Jim. And if we have a raise hands on the little function, please. Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on, agenda item 9, annual customer feedback report. Lee and Rebecca.
Thank you very much, Chair. So my colleague Rebecca Zakara with me tonight, who manages the customer relationship team and oversees the corporate complaints process and policies. And the purpose of the report we're presenting tonight is to update members on the council's response to complaints between the 1st of April 2019 and 31st of March 2020. The reason for this is in accordance with the committee's terms of reference, which includes recognising that complaints and compliments are a cabinet function, but that committee should review the annual complaints reports and seek assurances that the council is improving in response to complaints raised. The key points of the report presented tonight are that corporate complaints have reduced by 4% in 2019-20 to 477, which is the lowest number received in 6 years. The percentage of upheld corporate complaints reduced in 2019-20 to 43%, from 48% in the previous year. Where fault was found, the cases have been reviewed to ensure that wider learning is identified to avoid further complaints of a similar nature in future and improve our customers' experience. The council responded to corporate complaints in an average of 11 days, which is well within the 15 working day timescale outlined in the policies. This is again a significant improvement on the 14 working days achieved the previous year. 81% of corporate complaints were responded to within 15 working days, which is again an improvement on 74% achieved the previous year. In 1920, there has been a 16% increase in the combined number of compliments and positive feedback received. We received 290 the previous year, in 2019-20, compared with 250 in the previous year. 58 adult statutory complaints were received, a slight increase from the 58 received in 1819. And 65% of adult statutory complaints were upheld. This is an increase from the 54% upheld the previous year. Learning has been undertaken from all these upheld complaints to make sure that we embed that learning in our future processes. We aim to respond to all adult statutory complaints within 25 working days. Because of the nature and complexity of some of the issues and the requirement to speak to all parties involved, it can often take longer, and complainants will be informed if this is going to be the case. The timescales may be extended to a maximum of 65 working days. In 1920, the average number of days to respond to an adult statutory complaint across all portfolios was 51 days. This is an improvement on the 56 working days in the previous year. No adult statutory complaint exceeded the statutory 6-month response timescale as outlined in the legislation. 50 children's statutory complaints were received, an increase on the 42 received in 1819. 43% of the complaints were upheld, a slight reduction from the 44% upheld the previous year. Learning has been undertaken from all these complaints and these embedded into our future processes to improve the customer's experience. Children's statutory complaints, stage 1s, should be responded to within 10 working days, which may be extended to 20 working days if needed. In 1920, stage 1 complaints were responded to with an average of 21 working days. Whilst this is an improvement on the 25 working days achieved the previous year, we recognise that we do need to improve that to meet our statutory requirements. 76% of complainants were responded to within the timescales, and we are working closely with the service to try and improve that for the future, for this year and future years. Stage 2 complaints responded to with an average of 37 days for independent investigations. There have been no stage 3 panels at all in the 12-month period. In 1920, the local government and social care ombudsman confirmed that they completed 13 detailed investigations into complaints that followed both our local and statutory complaints process. 7 of these complaints were found to have been upheld, which is 54%. This is slightly lower than the averages for similar authorities. 1 of the 7 upheld investigations found that statutory remedy had been offered prior to the Ombudsman becoming involved and given the consideration. This is 14% in comparison to 11% across similar authorities. There was 100% compliance with the local government Ombudsman recommendations in the year, compared with 99% compliance from similar authorities. That's it for me. Thank you, Chair. I'll take any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Any comments or questions from anyone? Bill?
Yeah, it's just, first of all, it's nice to see that pretty much overall there's an improvement across all areas, both adult, children, and that's to be welcome. My only one I'd like to report back to the Children's Services is when it goes to the Ombudsman. I mean, for me, for anything to go to an Ombudsman, it must be fairly serious because it can't be dealt with internally. And the disappointment is any of them, I know it sounds a bit harsh, any of them that get upheld. To have 13 submitted to the Ombudsman and 7 of them upheld, you would think our internal review of the situation should have found out and thought, well, hang on, we've done something wrong here, and it shouldn't need to go to an Ombudsman to tell us that. Now, I'm looking at it in a very simplistic way, outside of what the actual area is, but it seems so sad that things have to go to an Ombudsman. I'm also concerned of the fact that You know, do all the people there have the wherewithal to take it to an ombudsman? Some people may feel as though they haven't got the support to do that. So my answer back would be thank you for the improvements that we've had, but I'd love to get it 0 going to ombudsman, or if it does go there, that none of them are upheld because we've done the right thing to start with. So that's the only negative thing I'd want to put back on what is probably overall a fairly positive report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Anybody else want to make any comments? No? Okay, thank you very much, Lee.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So that concludes our agenda for this evening. So thank you all for your attendance, and to those who may be watching online. So good night, everybody.